For most of human history, attention was never something we had to think about. The world moved slowly. Information arrived at a manageable pace. But today, attention has become one of the most strained resources of the human brain. Notifications, screens, rapid switching between tasks, and constant stimulation have quietly reshaped how our minds operate. Many people feel distracted, mentally scattered, or unable to focus for long periods, and for decades, this problem was framed as a failure of attention itself. But modern neuroscience is telling a more interesting story. To understand how attention really works, scientists began studying a phenomenon called the attentional blink. This refers to a very brief window of time measured in milliseconds when the brain temporarily fails to register new information because it is still processing something that just occurred. In laboratory experiments, people are shown rapid streams of visual information, such as letters flashing quickly on a screen. When two important targets appear close together, many people reliably miss the second one. Their attention blinks, not because they are unfocused, but because attention is already fully engaged elsewhere. This discovery changed how researchers think about focus. Attention is not simply about trying harder. It is about how the brain allocates limited processing resources over time. When attention locks too strongly onto one event, it can cause blindness to what comes next. This is now believed to play a role in everyday distraction, multitasking failures, and even conditions like ADHD. Interestingly, people with ADHD are not unable to focus. In many cases, they overfocus on certain stimuli, which leads to missing other important information. The issue is not weak attention, but inflexible attention. This is where meditation research enters the picture. Over the past 2 decades, neuroscientists began asking whether attention could be trained not through effort, but through changes in awareness. One of the earliest and most influential findings came from studies comparing long-term meditation practitioners with non-meditators. In a study published in Cognitive Processing and indexed on PubMed, researchers found that individuals with extensive meditation experience showed a significantly reduced attentional blink. Even more striking, older meditators performed as well as or better than younger adults with no meditation experience. This suggested that meditation may slow or offset age-related decline in attentional processing. The explanation was not that meditators were concentrating harder. Instead, their brains appeared to distribute attention more efficiently across time. They were less likely to exhaust attentional resources on the first target, leaving capacity available for the next. This finding hinted at something profound. Attention can be reshaped at a fundamental neural level. Further research explored what type of meditation mattered most. Scientists began distinguishing between focused attention meditation, where attention is placed on a single object, like the breath, and open monitoring meditation, where awareness remains open to whatever arises without fixation. In a well-known study published in Frontiers in Human Neuroscience, highly experienced meditators showed a reduced attentional blink specifically during open monitoring states. Their brains did not overcommit to the first stimulus, allowing them to detect subsequent information more accurately. However, this effect was strongest in individuals with thousands of hours of practice, suggesting that attention training develops gradually, not instantly. At the same time, researchers were careful to test whether these effects were universal. Not every study found dramatic behavioral improvements. A more recent investigation reported that while meditators did not always outperform non-meditators on attentional blink tasks, their brain activity patterns differed significantly. This suggests that meditation may change how attention is processed even when performance outcomes appear similar. In other words, the brain may become more efficient and less reactive long before those changes become obvious in behavior. Beyond attentional blink, meditation has been shown to influence attention more broadly. Studies comparing meditators to non-meditators across multiple visual and cognitive tasks found that meditators often demonstrate faster reaction times, improved conflict resolution, and greater cognitive flexibility. These effects occur even when individuals are not actively meditating, indicating long-term changes in attentional systems. One study using the attention network test found that both focused attention and open monitoring meditation enhanced executive attention, the system responsible for managing conflict and controlling impulses. This matters because executive attention is what allows us to stay on task, ignore distractions, and recover quickly when attention drifts. Neuroscience helps explain why these changes occur. Brain imaging studies using functional MRI have shown that meditation alters activity in regions involved in attention control and internal awareness. One key region is the insular cortex, which plays a central role in interoception, the brain's ability to sense internal bodily states such as breathing, heartbeat, and physical sensations. A landmark study published in Social Cognitive and Affective Neuroscience demonstrated that mindfulness training strengthens neural representations of interoceptive attention. This means meditators become more aware of internal signals and better able to regulate their mental state. Interoception turns out to be deeply connected to attention. When the brain is better tuned to internal signals, it becomes less reactive to external distractions. This does not mean ignoring the world, but rather responding to it with greater stability. A large meta-analysis published in Scientific Reports analyzed data from dozens of randomized controlled trials and found that mindfulness-based interventions consistently improved interoceptive awareness. While the effect size was moderate, the findings were remarkably consistent across populations. Other studies have shown that meditation alters connectivity between frontal and parietal brain regions, responsible for attention regulation. These changes reflect improved communication between networks that monitor experience and those that guide conscious focus. Over time, this may explain why meditators report less mind-wandering and greater clarity, even in demanding environments. A common question is whether short meditation sessions can produce meaningful benefits. Some experimental studies suggest that even brief practices, sometimes as short as 10 to 15 minutes, can temporarily enhance attention, reduce mind-wandering, and improve inhibitory control compared to control activities. Electroencephalography studies show changes in neural markers associated with attentional allocation after brief mindfulness sessions. However, these effects are generally modest and short-lived when compared to long-term practice. This is where claims about a single 17-minute session permanently rewiring attention must be approached carefully. Current scientific evidence does not support the idea that one session produces lifelong changes. What the research does show is that even short practices can shift the brain into a more efficient attentional mode, and repeated exposure to that state over time leads to lasting neural adaptation. Attention, like physical fitness, improves through repetition and consistency. The most compelling conclusion from the research is not that attention can be fixed instantly, but that it is remarkably plastic. The brain's attentional systems adapt to how they are used. Practices that reduce overfixation, enhance interoceptive awareness, and promote open monitoring appear to train the brain to allocate attention more flexibly. This flexibility reduces attentional blink, improves executive control, and may protect against age-related cognitive decline. For anyone struggling with focus, this represents a hopeful message grounded in neuroscience. Attention is not a fixed trait. It is a trainable function. The combination of behavioral studies, brain imaging, and meta-analysis provides converging evidence that mindfulness and meditation influence the very circuits that govern how we perceive, process, and respond to the world. What emerges from this body of research is a more accurate understanding of attention, not as a fragile resource constantly failing us, but as a system that can be refined. When awareness shifts inward, when the brain learns not to overcommit to a single moment, it becomes better prepared for what comes next. And that, at its core, is what focus truly is. Thanks for watching.